On the second Monday of September in 1897, I was sitting on top of the world. Well, to tell the truth, I wasn't actually sitting on top of the world. I just felt as if I were. I was sitting on the top rail of our corral fence, watching Frank Jensen doing all my chores. It reminded me of the hundreds of times my brother Tom had sat on the corral fence, watching me do all his chores. He had bamboozled me into doing his share of the work so many times that Mama and Aunt Bertha were both astonished whenever they saw him carrying in a bucket full of coal or an armful of kindling wood. And that is why I felt as if I were sitting on top of the world. I had been the victim of Tom's great brain more times than a horse switches its tail knocking off flies in the summertime. He had swindled me out of my birthday and Christmas presents until there was no sense in me having a birthday or receiving Christmas presents. I wasn't the only kid in Aidenville, Utah, who had been victimized by my brother's great brain. Tom didn't play any favorites when it came to being the youngest confidence man who ever lived. There wasn't a kid in town who hadn't been swindled by my brother. I didn't hold a grudge against Tom for the many times he had put one over on me. I was actually grateful. When a fellow has been the victim of every confidence trick in the book, he gets to be pretty darn sharp himself. So sharp, I was positive I could step right into Tom's shoes after he left for the Catholic Academy in Salt Lake City with my oldest brother, Sven. Aidenville had a population of about 2,000 Mormons and about 500 Protestants and Catholics. We had a one-room schoolhouse where Mr. Standish taught the 1st through the 6th grades. Any parents who wanted their children to get a higher education had to send them to Salt Lake City. Sven was starting his 2nd year at the academy. Tom was only 11, but going to the academy because he was so smart, Mr. Standish had let him skip a grade. I was only 9 years old and wouldn't be going away to school for a few years. I thought I would bawl like a baby when Tom left. I felt sad about having a brother I loved leave home. I knew I would miss him very much, but at the same time, I couldn't help feeling sort of relieved. Mama and Aunt Bertha carried on as if my brothers were going off to war as the train left the depot. "I feel so sorry for my 2 boys," Mama cried. "They are so very young to be leaving home." Papa put his arm around Mama's shoulders. "If you must feel sorry for anybody," he said, "feel sorry for the Jesuit priests at the academy who are going to have to put up with the great brain for the next 9 months." I know that sounds like a cruel thing for a father to say. Papa was editor and publisher of the Aidenville Weekly Advocate and was considered one of the smartest men in town. But Tom had made a fool out of Papa almost as many times as he had me. Maybe that was why Papa had said what he did. Sometimes I thought Tom had made Papa and me his favorite victims because we looked so much alike. I was a real leaf off the Fitzgerald family tree. I had the same dark curly hair and deep brown eyes that Papa had. Anybody could tell I just had to be his son by looking at us. Sven was a blonde and looked like our Danish mother. Tom didn't look like Papa, and he didn't look like Mama unless you sort of put them both together. I couldn't help feeling a sense of great power after Tom was gone from Aidenville. I knew I only had a little brain compared with Tom's great brain, but I believed I'd learned enough from my brother to outsmart any kid in town. I knew I wasn't a genius like Tom when it came to putting one over on Papa or Mama and other adults in town, but my brother had taught me that adults are pretty dumb, and a kid who uses his head can fool them most of the time. The time had come for me to take over where Tom had left off.